On November 14th, the Now You See Me movie franchise is back. The Four Horsemen of Magic, Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Dave Franco, and Isla Fisher are reuniting for their biggest heist yet. This film delivers everything fans want. Surprises, stunning practical magic, and a few twists. It's the most fun your whole family will have in the theater this fall. Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Rated PG-13. Only in theaters November 14th. Get tickets now.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. PrizePicks takes your weekend to a new level. We're talking easy stuff. You know what you're doing. More or less, like Saquon Barkley, more or less than 1 rushing touchdown. Games with Patrick Mahomes, more or less than 2.5 passing touchdowns. You know what we're talking about. We're playing fantasy. We're playing DFS. Jump in the PrizePicks app. You will not regret it. It makes the weekend so much more fun, and it's really easy to do. Just download the PrizePicks app today and use code DFS to get $50 on lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code DFS to get $50 on lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks is good to be right.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in. Tuesday, November 4th here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew, working from home in a hoodie Betz.
It's the best time of the year, man. I love these fall mornings. Nice, crisp, cool. Wake up, you're chilly, get a hoodie, get the slippers on, get your cup of coffee. I mean, full dad mode, engaged. This morning I actually made eggs and bacon for the kids. So It was a full dad morning in the slippers. So it was a good morning so far, man. Yeah, and then in the afternoon, it's not like hot or cold. It's like perfect, like in the upper 50s, low 60s. That is the sweet spot for me. So right now, while we're in this little window, I'm fully embracing the hoodie life.
Today, I'm trying to juggle the record 3 podcasts while also my kids have digital learning day, which means they do school at home today. They do it like twice a semester. I don't know where my tax dollars are going, but I can tell you this right now. They're at my kitchen table trying to do homework. My wife's here helping them, but it's like you can't really do work well and you can't really do parenting well. So I just end up just doing today not well.
Perfect. Can't wait for you to just, mail it in, just get through Tuesday, just like the rest of America, right? I mean, we're all just trying to get to the 5 o'clock hour, Kyle, and you're already looking forward to that. You know what? I need to send a fax to corporate, get this across their desk, let them know Kyle's productivity today is going to be not great.
Yeah, dude, if anything, I'm going to be so productive that when it does get to 5 o'clock, I'm going to look up and be like, wow, I got nothing to do this week. I can simply mail it in. I will say this, as we turn the page, we're going to look at week 10. I'm already really excited about this slate. Like, I actually feel like I've got my head around it, which means I'll do terrible. But I feel pretty good about the way this is set up, this 10-game slate. I don't feel great about the Falcons traveling to Berlin to play the Colts. Don't feel great about that part of the slate.
We're back to another Sunday morning game, huh? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I don't know, the Falcons and all their roots with Germany.
All the international fans who just love Atlanta.
Yes, of course. Also, did you see the news? We are doing kicker tryouts this week. Second time this year. Yeah.
I did not see that. Who's their guy now? Parker Romo or something like that?
Yeah, when you got a guy who, beat out Younghoe Koo, who's one of the highest paid kickers in the league, you bring in a guy who's rocking the soul patch. He's got the facial hair. It's just right there. Just what a look. And misses an extra point and costs the team a victory. No big deal.
That's fine. Not worried about it.
The Falcons are really creative. I consider myself a pretty creative person. All right. The Falcons are a great picture of that, in that, hey, you can sack the quarterback 6 times, you can create all these turnovers and lose by an extra point. It's like, well done, folks.
It really is. I mean, every week you never know what you're going to get from Atlanta. I have two things to say. One, I really could have used that scoop and score a touchdown. I played the Falcons D in cash this week on DraftKings. So when I saw that play happen, I was like, oh, baby. Like, because we talked about, like, it's tough down there in the cheap range. And Drake May, for as good as he's been, like, he will take sacks. So I was like, 2,500, how bad could it be? And I see the scoop and score, and I am saying, this dude is not even trying to score. It was so slow. Got caught from behind, so that was tough. And then the other thing I'll say about kickers, Cam Little.
Oh.
Brother. An absolute bomb from 68 yards?
68. Aubrey tried to tie it up on Monday night, and he missed. But
I mean, that was a chip shot for Little. Come on.
Cam Little. So I get a lot of things wrong. But I think this might be one of the things I take the most pride in, that when he was drafted, youngest kicker ever drafted in the NFL draft, okay? His breakout score was just awesome from Arkansas for kickers.
His 40 time was sick too.
When he got drafted, I've said on this podcast and I've said it to Betz, I said, I think he's going to be an all-time great. And you're like, dude, this is a kicker. But I felt so good about it. And then I was really proud of him, man. Like a proud father.
It was impressive, man. I mean, I know we all want people to go for forward on fourth down all the time. And we, of course, in fantasy want touchdowns, not kicking points. But goodness gracious, man, that was impressive.
On this episode, we will review Week 9, the slate that happened that was dominated by Kyle Manungai, or as we called him on Monday's main show, Kyle Kawabungai. It's kind of fun to say. It was a fun slate, and then we'll turn the page, talk about Week 10, salary standouts, all that jazz. So let's review.
Weekly Rewind.
Every week, Betz and I write review articles on the website for cash, and he writes a small field one. It did feel pretty good that when I look at our best plays from Week 9, what we wrote up, what everybody in the DFS pass had, our top two quarterbacks that we had were Jackson Dart and Caleb Williams. And those are basically the quarterbacks you need. I mean, I guess you could have played Flacco and gotten there, but those were the two quarterbacks in cash and in tournaments that were the most valuable. And I saw a lot of people that are DFS Pass subscribers stack up Caleb Williams with Kyle Manungai, Zacchaeus, even Colston Loveland, who we've been talking about. So that was kind of the basis of the slate, is like start there at quarterback, you get some cheap running back plays, you jam in CMC, and then you're also able to basically jam in a couple of stud wide receivers. So the overall structure of how to attack the slate, I think, got really, really clear when we got the salary savings from those running backs.
Yeah, it was kind of an old school slate where it was like pay down at quarterback, cheap punt, backup running backs. You pick your two, or even if you wanted to play three of them, you could have. I saw teams with that. Or, jam in the studs and play around with what fits as far as the pieces there. It was interesting. I thought for tournaments, there was a couple of really good plays that were going to get kind of squeezed down, even though, like, when we talked on the Friday show before we had the final news on DeAndre Swift and the backup running back plays with Ramondre Stevenson, that there was some like 5K running backs that I was like, oh, these are pretty good plays, like Jalen Warren and some of those guys. Kamani Vidal, of course, Vidal didn't do anything, but there were some of those 5 and 6K running backs that kind of got squeezed in roster percentage. And I played a Warren team in small field. Pretty excited to get him at just 10%. If you told me before the slate, like, he's going to have 2 touchdowns, I'd be like, sweet. I mean, we're obviously printing money here, but sadly, he was wildly inefficient. But yeah, the cheap running back plays were just really, really, really strong this week. I mean, the Bengals, man, did they care at all about defense? Does not seem like it. And Manungai, there's some always concern, like, is this 7th round rookie really going to get everything? He got everything. 29 touches in this game. And then for Travion, the box score results really weren't there, but he was very good as far as his usage. Like 6 targets, you'll take that, especially in full PPR if you play on DraftKings. And then played, I think, like 75% of the snaps. So the role was good. He just didn't get in the end zone, unfortunately. But yeah, it was an old school slate. Pay down at these spots, just jam in the studs. Jamar Chase, Puka, even Amon-Ra had a nice game. So, like, whichever one you spent up for, Rashee Rice, they were all fine at their salary. I will say in tournaments, you didn't necessarily need those guys, though, at their price point. Like, Chase, it's so funny how, like, ridiculous Chase's season is when he's doing what he's doing. And it's like, you didn't really have to have him, even though he's catching, like, 9 to 12 balls a game.
He has 20 DK points, and it feels like it didn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah, just at his salary. And then Puka left with injury, of course, and Rice was fine, but like didn't have to have him. So yeah, it was one of those weeks in tournaments that if you kind of got off the board elsewhere, you could have had a really nice week. But in cash, it was pretty clear, and I really didn't think there was too many options in terms of how to build on the slate.
I will give you a shout out that Brock Bowers was one of the stronger stances that you had. You wrote him up in the Best Plays article as your bold call of the week. Dude went for 46 points. So I bet there's a lot of people going into the afternoon slate feeling pretty good about where they stand, the calls they made, and then things just shifted. Like Brock Bowers didn't just break the slate, but like literally changed everything about how you ended in your tournament. So I was fortunate. I had a couple of teams. I mean, we played a lot of Colts, and Daniel Jones somehow got there in terms of just like 22 DraftKings points. Very fortunate. Alec Pierce, who we talked up a bunch, hit the 100-yard bonus in that last couple plays. And then I had a team with Brock Bowers on it that I just, out of nowhere, I was like, oh, wow, this team's doing all right in a tournament. So it was a good week for me. I did hit the cash line thanks to Parker Washington. I think he was actually one of the key pieces in cash that if you did spin down Juwan Jennings or Parker Washington, those two came through as the cheaper plays. Olamide Zaccheaus, another play if you went in that direction. But overall, like I thought the slate was pretty straightforward. It was really a coin flip for me between Chase and Puka, and it ended up not really mattering that much just because they basically scored the same and Puka went out. But yeah, overall, really, really good week. We did have some listeners who went bonkers. It's fun to see people win money bets. Did you know that?
It is. I love it.
Yeah, this one's from William Ivy, who's actually been a longtime listener. He says, I'm currently 24-3 on the year. He's talking about cash. I'm up around 20 units thanks to the pod and the community. It's a self-paying service, and I can't believe the ballers just let our boys Borg and Betz give advice for pennies. Yeah, I don't get it either. Spit on my DAC. Ooh, said, big thank you, guys. Also, tagged Julia, who writes the FanDuel article, said, I joined a 13-man FanDuel DFS winner-take-all, and this will be my 5th week this season taking home the pot. You're literally feeding families. I couldn't convince my wife to go to Chili's, but we're ordering some P.F. Chang's for dinner.
Okay. I mean, it's obviously not the best cuisine you could get, but it's all right.
Yeah. No, it's really, really good. We also had someone, Amorphous Blob, place second in the huddle, won $3K, and then said so much Chili's is about to be had. So lots of really, really good stuff. I also see somebody, Mecca 11 got 4th in the chop block, which won $500. So overall, I think one of the things that I feel most proud of is people understanding the different levers that you can pull in DFS. So like, I played a lot of Daniel Jones lineups, and I played a few Caleb Williams lineups. But the thing that helped me most is just saying, hey, with Caleb Williams, I'm assuming this game is going to go off. I'm going to play a chalky play like Kyle Monangai. And then you're just going to attach one other play. If it's Loveland, if it's hopefully not Roma Dunze, which I did a couple of lineups. And then on the other side, I'm bringing it back with somebody. Now, I whiffed on T. Higgins. I totally whiffed on T. Higgins this week. I played a lot of Chase. But I think those different things of like understanding if you're stacking up certain side, if you have a chalky piece like Monangai, how can you get different in the rest of your lineup?
Yeah, for sure. And that's really what these teams are all about, right? Is like, and I need to remind myself of this too every time I sit down and build a lineup for tournaments, is like the chalk is good for a reason most weeks, right? Like the popular plays are the popular plays because they project well in great matchups and their usage is strong for the most part. Of course, there's always like a cheap wide receiver every now and then. You're like, do I really want to play that? But otherwise, like you need a couple of those guys in most winning lineups. Not every player can be 6, 7, 8%. You need some of those 20, 25% guys, and then you mix in a couple leverage points, a couple low rostered guys, and hopefully those guys go off and kind of vault you to the top. So that's the winning combination over the years for sure. And I'm glad you pointed to that just as a reminder for folks. If you're struggling in tournaments, just make sure that you kind of self-reflect on the plays you're making and why you're making the plays, and make sure that you kind of have a process instead of just, blindly clicking buttons there and entering stuff. I will also add in the Daniel Jones discourse, because I'm with you. We talked up Indy a lot. I played a lot of Indy. If you told me before the slate, Daniel Jones is going to have a flame on DraftKings, Kyle, okay, this is going to be great. He does not deserve that. That was the worst game. He played so bad. Yet, he kind of Mr. Magooed his way there in garbage time. Josh Downs caught a touchdown. Alec Pierce hit the bonus. Pity City had an amazing game, hit the bonus. I got asked. Tyler Warren, I mean, if you told me Daniel Jones is going to have a flame, I would say Tyler Warren obviously went off. And most of my Jones stacks had Warren, so it was not a great week for me in tournaments.
Oh, man.
I just have to ask the Tyler Warren, truther here, Kyle. What's going
on? It's sad. It's sad in the sense of like, I feel like that offense had so many opportunities. Like they get the ball back and you're like, all right, okay, so here's the drive. And it's just like, it took until the very, very end to even get there. So too many turnovers, D Jones, man. It's not great. I did want to bring this up too. The week before, we were absolutely crushed in props. It wasn't great. And we have those weeks. But we had a nice little bounce back this week. I'm seeing 9-3 from our props in the DFS pass.
Bounce back week, it was really good. We had a great week, I guess 3 weeks ago at this point. Then last week, for 2 weeks ago, I mean, it was like, walking around the house, just staring at the ground, staring off into space, wondering, what am I doing, Kyle? What are we doing? What are we even doing here? We got back in the locker room, we huddled up, took a ice cold drink of water, reset, and bounce back this week. So yeah, it was good to get those wins. It's always a reminder for everybody that if you're new to this, or even if you've been doing it for a long time, there will be weeks where you lose. It's just the way it goes. But if you zoom out and you don't get stuck in the weeds day to day, if you're betting on other sports, or week to week, if you're only on NFL, you do have to have a long-term mindset in this stuff. And it's a good reminder for myself too, because last week, man, that was bad. It was really, really bad. But we just kind of stayed to the process, trusted, projections and matchups and all those things, and bounced back. So always good to see it. And I think a lot of people in Discord were happy too.
Yep. So you can get all of the access to everything we do, dfspass.com. And like William said earlier when I was introducing his name, like this can pay for itself, and we're not asking for any subscription, anything like that. We just think we can teach you the game. We can give out a few props each week that can hopefully be profitable and something that you have fun, especially in our Discord. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
On November 14th, the Now You See Me movie franchise is back. The Four Horsemen of Magic, Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Dave Franco, and Isla Fisher are reuniting for their biggest heist yet. This film delivers everything fans want. Surprises, stunning practical magic, and a few twists. It's the most fun your whole family will have in the theater this fall. Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Rated PG-13. Only in theaters November 14th. Get tickets now.
From Curtis 50 Cent Jackson and the executive producers of Power comes the final season of Force. Tommy Egan is back, and he's going all in. Turf wars, betrayal, and chaos erupt. Will he finally become the kingpin of Chicago? Don't miss the explosive season premiere on November 7th, only on Starz and the Starz app.
State of the main slate.
We are turning the page looking at week 10. And before I go any further, the Thursday night game this week is the Raiders at Denver. And as of this recording, because you won't get to talk to us again until Friday evening. I mean, you can obviously in Discord. But as of right now, we have the Broncos penciled in as our survivor pick because we are still alive.
Well, if you take a look at this, I tented my pants.
Didn't really have any doubt this past week with the Rams. That felt good. Felt really, really good. I think it was 20-10 at halftime, though.
It was. It wasn't over at halftime, which I thought it might be. But yeah, they took care of business in the second half. They were 61% played this week in our contest, so everybody had the Rams. I will say, go Panthers, man.
Yes.
Love the Panthers. Huge Panthers fan. Canales, Rico, Bryce Young, the boys. Dude, the Packers are weird. And the reason I'm saying this, anybody is obviously unaware, they lost and they were like 12 or 13%, I think, in our contest. So it was a pretty big week for those that had them if they lost, obviously. They're weird. At some points in the year, they look dominant. And then other times of the year, they kind of do this with teams, right? They kind of let them stick around. They're totally content to feed Josh Jacobs for 3 points a yards a carry. They kind of have Jordan Love meltdowns every now and then the next week he has an amazing game. They're just kind of a weird team, but I still feel like they're one of the best in the league when they're clicking. But this is obviously a pretty big letdown especially at home against the Panthers.
Yeah, so as of right now, the Broncos are 8.5 to 9-point favorites, depending on which book. It's one of the largest spreads of the week, and so that's who we have for our survivor pool, which the contest that we were a part of on DraftKings started off with what, like 10,000 people or so?
I think it was like 10,500.
And it's down to right around 1,000?
Right around 1,000, just over.
Okay. So maybe it's not the best thing that you and I publicly get to tell people what we're doing every single week, but so maybe there will be a point where we go like, we're going to be in the shadows just whispering, but the Broncos seem to be where we have things set up right now. I don't love a short week. I don't love the fact that Bo Nix sometimes drives me crazy, but Geno Smith under pressure. That's like my whole crux of this at home is like he will crumble.
They also really could not run the ball at all last week. Like Gentry could not get going at all. He had the touchdown, but without Colton Miller, like they just can't generate any positive movement at the line for the run game. 9.5-point underdogs. I mean, the game script says they shouldn't be able to run. So if you have Geno as a one-dimensional drop-back passer and the Broncos can kind of just do what they do, I feel pretty good about it. But like you said, Bo Nix just makes me queasy, man. Obviously, no, Pat Surtain does hurt as well. We wish he was in there for this one. But yes, as of our recording, we're going with Denver. Unless you hear otherwise in Discord. We get injury news or something. But as of now, we're rolling with the Broncos.
All right, so that's the Thursday night game. There's a game in Berlin, which I talked about, the Colts and Falcons. But then the main slate, there's a 10-game main slate. 4 teams are on bye this week, which are the Bengals, Cowboys, Chiefs, and Titans. But we have 7 games in the early window, 3 in the late window, including a couple of teams that are set up as, pretty healthy implied totals with the Lions, the Rams, the Seahawks also look like a really solid team in the late window. But the highest total that I am seeing right now is the Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. It's at 50.5. And Josh Allen, in his career, has crushed against the Dolphins. So I think this one profiles as the best. I also think we are really scared off when we look at other Dolphins options outside of Achane of what do I do? Do I need this team? So that will be an interesting conversation this week because the game has the total, and yet we always have trouble stacking up the Bills. We're always like, I guess it's Allen and Kincaid. I guess it's Allen Shakir. And then you bring him out with Achane. So it almost feels like very predictable if you were to look at that game. So any initial thoughts on that one? Because I got to figure that we're going to profile that game, but it doesn't have the same back and forth stackability that some of the other games are going to have.
Yeah, it's kind of the same conversation every week with the Bills where it's like, they're going to score points. We don't know who's going to catch the ball from Josh Allen because they spread it out, but we have seen, at least halfway through the season, like Dalton Kincaid has had enough spike weeks and enough usage that we can feel decently confident. For me, if you're going to stack him, like he's my preferred option. I actually played a team on FanDuel that did very well with Allen to Kincaid, and the Dolphins have given up a ton of production to tight ends. So early in the week, like that stack does look pretty appealing. Or you just want to say, I'm playing Josh Allen and James Cook, get all the touchdowns. They put up, 35 points here. You don't even necessarily need to bring back on the Dolphins side. I will say the Bills, I feel very, very confident in their ability to put up points here just because you think about the Dolphins at the trade deadline, which by the time you're listening to this, you might know more than us, but they obviously just traded away Jalen Phillips to the Eagles, so they are kind of in sell mode on some of their key pieces. I know a couple other edge rushers are also kind of on the block, so they don't have the pass rush now, and we kind of know the deal. So yeah, I just think leaning into Buffalo onslaughts is fine. If you want to bring it back with the Dolphin, that's cool, but you don't necessarily have to.
All right, which teams have the highest implied point totals for Week 10? Starting off with the Bills at 30.
Bills at 30. Lions, 29 points. Rams, 26.5. Then we have 3 teams tied, the Ravens, Bears, and Seahawks at 26. And the Bucks, coming out of their bye week, they're at 25.5, taking on the Patriots.
That is a pretty big gap between where the Bills and Lions are at, and then where the rest of these teams are.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised by the Bucks just because of all their we don't know injury-wise what's kind of going on here, but the Patriots defense has played quite well this year. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting that I feel like the Buccaneers are one of those teams, that I feel like because of the division they're in, because they've won a bunch of games early, we're kind of still baking that into what we want this team to be. and yet it has slowed down. Baker, 2 weeks before the bye, was pretty average from a fantasy output point. And then we still don't know anything about Bucky Irving. Like, do you have any injury updates about him? Because last thing I saw before the bye, his arm was in a sling.
Yeah, that's actually the bigger concern, is not the foot. It's more of the shoulder. So yeah, he was in a sling. The picture that he posted, it made its rounds on Twitter because of course, was from his Instagram. And it was posted, I believe, like 2.5 weeks ago. So unclear, like, if there was a procedure done or if this was just like a dislocated shoulder or something and it was still in a sling for a week or two after. We're in the dark. So we're monitoring news coming out of the bye week here for Tampa. We also had a couple other injury issues. Like, remember Emeka Egbuka, he played, but he was kind of battling through the hamstring heading into the bye week. They still have offensive linemen out. Chris Godwin's still unclear on his ankle. So a lot of moving parts on Tampa. I don't really feel comfortable making any kind of recommendations on anything until we see the injury report.
All right, when I'm looking at these teams too, I think we've had a hard time in DFS figuring out onslaught stacks. Because like overall, like I was looking at the Millie Maker lineup this past week, it was a Caleb double stack with Chase. And then a lot of lineups had Higgins in them. I saw a lot of lineups with lots of Flacco double stacked with, so like teams are stacking, or people are stacking up or double stacking in tournaments where there's a couple of onslaughts here, like Detroit, where I look at this team, or Buffalo. I'm like, how do I play this team knowing that their implied points are at 29 or 30? And then I look at the other sides. I'm like, do I need a Dolphin? Do I need a Commander? Anyway, I'm just like, I like the theory of onslaught stacks. And yet I don't really know how to deploy that each week when it's just easy for me to look at these games and say which one's going to go back and forth. Like, for instance, the game that I think is going to be very popular is Baltimore at Minnesota. So it's in a dome, and Lamar, we saw him on Thursday night. He's back. He had 4 touchdowns. Betz, did you know that his TD rate right now is basically 12%?
That's very good. Yeah, and totally sustainable.
Yes, totally. In his 4 full starts, if you just look at those games, not the game he got knocked out, it's 13%. So he's balling out. In 4 Lamar starts, in 4 full games, they've scored 40, 41, 30, and 28 points. So, like, it's there for this team to explode. And then you kind of saw the Vikings this past week with J.J. McCarthy at least have a respectable game. Like, he still has moments where he looks young and inexperienced, but at least there's enough there where you could look at the Vikings and say they could hold their own at home. So I think that game's going to be one that I could see going back and forth.
For sure. I'm actually really glad you pointed out the touchdown rate stuff with Lamar, because to me that just screams like one of these weeks we're getting a Derrick Henry explosion. Like, they can't all be passing touchdowns, and Henry unfortunately got stuffed at the goal line a couple times on that Thursday night game last week. So I'm glad you shared that, because early in the week I'm kind of circling like, oh, Derrick Henry in a tournament?
Nice.
Multiple touchdowns is coming soon, so I love it. The popular game that I have is Chicago and the Giants. And really it's not even as much about the game environment, which it is kind of. Like, the Giants defense obviously is struggling a lot. The Bears defense, we know the story there. It's kind of been an issue all year. But the pricing is still super, super cheap on both sides. They didn't price up Jackson Dart again, so you can stack him with cheap guys. And then on Chicago, like, Loveland is cheap. We're still not sure on DeAndre Swift, but Kyle Monangai is still too cheap if that role continues. Caleb's cheap enough. So I just think from a pricing standpoint, it's pretty easy to talk yourself into this one.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one a little bit later, because I feel like Dart every single week is going to be in the cash conversation. His floor has been not just high enough, but the stacking partners are now kind of clear. It's like Theo Johnson's been awesome, and then Wan'Dale Robinson has been fine at his price point. So I don't know. I think the Giants are like, I'm much more intrigued than I thought it would be. In terms of a sneaky game, I'm interested in Seattle stacks and figuring out like, how do you, like, that JSN is going to be somebody that's going to get played a ton. We'll talk about him in salary standouts, but Sam Darnold, man, you wrote this up on Twitter. You just basically said like, I'm just going to take the L and just say I did not see this coming. And me too. Like, it's not like I played a lot of Sam Darnold anywhere. In best ball, I have some shares that are looking kind of nice because he was just super late. But this year, he is averaging 10.6 yards per pass attempt when there are 2 tight ends on the field. It's number 1 in the NFL. Last year, he was also number 1 in the NFL in yards per pass attempt when 2 or more tight ends are on the field. And this is a really interesting point that I've seen brought up a couple different places, that usually we think of like heavy personnel, 2 tight ends, like they're trying to run the ball. Seattle's been really bad efficiency-wise running the ball. It's actually set them up to be able to throw in so many different ways where lots of tight ends have been involved. A.J. Barner's been a pretty consistent threat for this team. You get Torrey Horton, their rookie, involved, but JSN in 12 personnel is not something we saw at all through his first couple years in the NFL. Now he's in this offense where he's just absolutely balling out. His yards per route run, I don't know if you saw, Betz, is 4.4.
Stupid. Yeah, they're doing whatever they want. It's like they're playing Madden on easy mode right now. I mean,
yes,
Darnold is, I think he's in the MVP conversation. I haven't seen what his updated odds are, but he's playing at that level. And like you said, yeah, I tweeted it out Sunday night. I was just like, man, I really thought leaving, easily a top 5 wide receiver duo. You could argue the order in the NFL, but like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are great. Leaving those guys, leaving the Dome, leaving Kevin O'Connell, like, I don't know. I think Sam Darnold might regress. In hindsight, that is an egregious take from the summer, so I fully own that L. That was so wrong. He's playing out of his mind, and he's a perfect fit for what they're doing. Like you said, with those heavy 2 tight end personnel packages, get the run game going, play auction half of it, get him on the move, like on bootlegs and stuff like that. He's so good. I think he might be the best deep ball thrower in the NFL right now, and when they can do those things out of those heavy personnel sets, it's kind of unstoppable. So I do love the spot for Seattle. I'm with you. This is a great game environment for my kind of takes early in the week of just saying, hey, they have the rest advantage. They played Sunday night, Arizona, obviously Monday Night Football. They go back home. The Cardinals are probably propped up in the market a little bit based off of a good win. Don't get me wrong, but against the Cowboys, like, come on, it's the freaking Cowboys. Seattle is, I think they're ready to roll here. So if they do, we're going to see points, and it's pretty easy. Like, you don't have to talk yourself into like these weird stacking options. Like if you're playing Darnold, you're playing him with JSN. And then depending on Cooper Kupp's injury, that could open up some stuff too for a secondary guy. But yeah, I love the Seahawks this week. I think they're going to absolutely roll.
Sam Darnold right now is 20-1 to win MVP.
Might have to hold on. Let's pull up the schedule real quick.
Yeah, because we went through this summer. We talked through it again a couple weeks ago and did awards update. It really comes down to, can this team end up being a top 2 seed in the NFC?
Well, they obviously have to win the division, and this division is legit. So they get Arizona, then they go on the road against the Rams, that's going to be a huge game for both Stafford and him as far as MVP. Tennessee, Minnesota, Atlanta, the Colts, the Rams again, Carolina, San Francisco to close it out.
It's intriguing right now. Josh Allen's the favorite at plus 180. Then it's Mahomes, Drake May, Matthew Stafford at 5.5 to 1. And I brought up this stat, but like his touchdown to interception ratio is basically up there among the best of the best over the last 20 years. And all of those quarterbacks either finished 1 or 2 in MVP. So, and then Baker is ahead of Darnold right now at 16 to 1. So that feels like a little mispriced right there.
I agree. I would probably make, based off how they've played, especially recently, and team level success, I would put Darnold ahead of Baker. So maybe I'll wager on that. We'll see.
Imagine having a conversation with our past selves. Let's put it at like 3 years ago. And we're talking about MVP awards. We're saying, hey, so we're trying to figure out like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. Who's a better player to bet on for MVP?
Those odds probably at that point in time would have had to been like 100 to 1 to be like, I guess.
Those are the markets that you really need to take advantage of. Who's going to win the MVP in 2028? That's the one I want to just start. You get your local guy. You say, hey, I don't care about this year. I definitely don't care about next year or the year after. But 2028, I've got a thought. And that thought is, let me just pick a random player. Trevor Lawrence. That's who it would end up being.
Nope.
But that's the level of what we're talking here.
Yes, but also no.
Oh, dude, trust me. I've got some Trevor Lawrence stats I'm going to bring up in just a second. The game that I want to be underweight on for week 10, maybe I'm crazy bets, but the Jets and Browns doesn't really get me out of bed. They're both coming off the bye. It's at 36.5. And Aaron Glenn is still basically playing poker, saying, hey, I'm not going to tell you who the quarterback is. I got this advantage. I'm not going to tell you. It just looks like a gross defensive battle. Cleveland is 6th in yards per play allowed. So really tough to stack that game up.
Yeah. It's funny, man. We've had great matchups on the calendar every year in the NFL schedule. You get Mahomes Allen is like always must-see TV. You get these really fun back and forth game environments. My favorite battle this year has been Aaron Glenn versus the media every week. Every week we get it on Monday mornings. I don't know what it is, but I feel like he's so committed now, like he can't not, like he has to do it every week. Otherwise it's weird. Yeah, we'll see. I'm with you though. It's hard to get excited about that. For the same reasons, I'm with you on Houston and Jacksonville. The total is low, but there's just so many issues on kind of both sides. Like I think there's a chance we see Davis Mills, CJ Stroud is in concussion protocol. Then you have a offensive line that's struggled for most of the year. They get a good pass rush for Jacksonville. And then on the other side, I know you're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence too, but like Lawrence is down Travis Hunter, probably Brian Thomas Jr., De'Ami Brown is in concussion protocol, Brenton Strange is still on IR, and now he gets this pass rush from Houston. So I just really struggle to see it with Trevor Lawrence this week.
It's not good. I'll give you some stats in a second. The team that I think I'm really confident in hitting the over of their implied total is the Giants. Not a sentence I thought I would be saying.
The New York Football Giants.
I know, the Giants. You brought up the game earlier, Chicago and New York. Their implied total is at 22.5. Since Jackson Dart took over, he's the quarterback 3 in fantasy, which is crazy. But the Giants, 9th in play success rate in the NFL, 12th in points per drive. And here's the stat that blew my mind. They are tied for the 4th most touchdowns scored of any team in football since he took over. So I think it's a really good matchup. The Bears offense, by the way, they've hit their implied total in 7 of 8 weeks. So if you like the Bears, you like the Giants, you mentioned this game, but their defense is tied for dead last in yards per play allowed.
Kind of like the over on that game now that we talked through it.
Yep.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go with the Patriots over 23 points. I think this Tampa Bay pass funnel is going to play right into the strengths of what Drake May does and his willingness to push the ball down the field. I kind of wish they had Kayshon Boutte, which he's still recovering from a hamstring injury from this past week, so unlikely to play this week in my opinion because he is so good at those deep balls. But I think either way, like Drake May is still playing at a great level. You get a defense that kind of invites you to throw. So could we see Travion get some explosive plays in the pass game? Stephon Diggs, some of those guys. So I like 23 points here for New England.
All right, I've been waiting to ask you this question. This is going to derail the podcast for a second, but you're a Drake May guy through and through, right?
I'm coming around to him.
You're a Jalen Hurts guy through and through, right?
He's all right.
Okay, so I have Drake May in a dynasty league, and I've just it's been a great ride. Just like, man, I've got a stud. And someone today who is out of the playoffs, they're looking to rebuild, said, hey, would you be interested in taking Jalen Hurts for your Drake May? Just straight up.
That's tough.
I know, because the emotional part of I've been with May and my heart says I want him to be great forever. And yet to win now, I think Jalen Hurts is a better move. And I think you could argue that you'd rather have him in Dynasty just straight up in general. But the heart wants what the heart wants. And I know both those players mean a lot to you.
They do. Well, I think you have to ask yourself, does the tush push get banned in 2026? And I think the answer is probably yes. Not that Hurts can't have great fantasy production, obviously, without it, because he can still run and he's got the weapons and throw. But I do feel, how many of his fantasy points over the last 3 or 4 years have come from that? Like an obscene amount with his rushing touchdowns. So if you give him 5 less rushing scores every year or something like that, that adds up. I think I'd take Drake May, man.
It's a wild thought, because when it came across, I was like, oh, well, I know what I should do, but what do I want to do? And what is more fun? And I've gotten this far with May, and what just feels cooler and sexier right now? It's not Hurts, man.
Drake May is producing like a top 5 fantasy quarterback, so it's not even like you're sacrificing youth for production.
I know. Anyway.
He's a quarterback 3 right now, Drake May.
Oh, and it's a great ride, man. All right, the team that I am most confident hitting the under is the Jaguars. I teased them earlier. You said it was a game you don't want to be a part of. Their implied total's at 18. We know how good the Houston defense is. They are top 3 in yards per play allowed, and they run the second highest rate of zone coverage in the entire NFL. 81% of opponent dropbacks, they're in zone. Your boy Trevor Lawrence happens to have the lowest completion percentage in the NFL against zone coverage this year, 60.6%, lower than Cam Ward. It's been bad, and it's probably going to get worse because their entire pass catching core is basically banged up.
Yeah, it's such a tough spot. Like, I talked about the injuries they've got. I mean, even Tim Patrick was out last week.
Was he a coach's decision, though?
No, it was injury.
Okay.
So, I mean, I honestly don't even know like who their other depth pieces are besides Parker Washington, and we might find out this week if that tells you anything. So, yeah, dude, I'm surprised the line is what it is. I guess it's the Stroud injury keeping it as a tight spread, but the Jags they're so kind of like Jekyll and Hyde, and they have, I think they lead the NFL, or they're last in the NFL, whichever way you want to put it, in terms of most penalties in the league. So they've got like that issue, and yeah, I don't know, man. I think the defense for Houston can just kind of take over in this game.
Yeah, I think both defenses we'll talk about are in play for cash conversation this week, but it's not a game you want to stack up.
Yep. I'm going to take the Cardinals under 19.5. Obviously, we just saw them have a really nice performance against the Cowboys in prime time, but now they are, short rest, back-to-back weeks on the road. And I think this Kyler issue is going to be a problem. Like, either he does come back and he plays, and they make the choice to go back to him, and then let's be honest, is he a better fit for this offense, or is it Jacoby Brissett? I think it might be Brissett. And then if he doesn't start, and he is healthy, and he knows he's healthy, and some of the players in the locker room know he's healthy, then it creates this whole weird dynamic. So, this just feels like a sell high spot on Arizona for me against the Seattle defense that they've had injury issues for kind of bits and pieces of the year, but when they have been healthy, they have been very, very good. So I'm going to take Arizona on the road under 19.5 points.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
With Sylvania, seeing better while driving at night starts with you. Because headlight bulbs dim over time and can lose up to 50 feet of visibility before burnout. That's why you shouldn't wait. Upgrade your drive with brighter lights for better visibility on the road ahead. Sylvania's step-by-step installation video guides make it easier than ever to take control of your nighttime clarity, all without a trip to the mechanic. So before a burnout darkens your day, upgrade to Sylvania and see better tonight.
Whenever I need to send roses that are guaranteed to make someone's day, the only place I trust is 1-800-Flowers.com. With 1-800-Flowers, my friends and family always receive stunning, high-quality bouquets that they absolutely love. Right now, when you buy a dozen multicolored roses, 1-800-Flowers will double your bouquet to 2 dozen roses. To claim this special double roses offer, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/SXM. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/SXM.
Salary standouts.
I like the quarterbacks that we have in front of us for week 10. So this is the beginning of the week, just circling some names that you can come back to, write them in your journal, write them down. I haven't been doing that this year. I used to handwrite on a Tuesday everything in front of me, but I guess we have the show doc. I have all the charts. Have I lost my ways?
You've changed just when you think you know a guy. Who are you?
I know. I my past self would look at all my little DFS notebooks, and now I just the optimizer. It's great. The charts. I don't even know who I am. I do like Lamar among the expensive quarterbacks this week at 6.8. I talked earlier about his TD rate and how awesome he's been. This is a historically cheap price for Lamar Jackson.
Buttlicker, our prices have never been lower.
And whenever I get to hit that drop, it does a little extra for me saying, man, I get to play this player because he never gets to be this cheap. And so therefore I want to play him because he's going to be more expensive in the future.
I love it. I'm surprised he's not more expensive. Great performance on Thursday night.
Right.
And he was pretty much just a pocket passer. Like, didn't even really have to run. I think he'll be healthier in this spot too, so you get that rushing to come back. So I do like Lamar. I also think, like most weeks, there's some really good options in the 5K range. I think Jared Goff is interesting against the Commanders. I think Jackson Dart, because of the rushing and the matchup, is great against the Bears. And then Mariota in the same matchup against the Lions is totally fine at 5.3. They have called a lot of design rushing attempts for him when he's been the quarterback this year. And obviously, based off the spread and based off the matchup, I think they're going to have to throw quite a bit here. So I like those guys early in the week as some cheaper alternatives.
Can I let you know that Jacoby Brissett is still $4,600?
I mean, they're just expecting Kyler to be the starter, right? I mean, that's the only explanation.
I guess it's somebody who didn't, like whoever's in risk management, which I don't really fully understand how that job works in any field, but in DraftKings, you're going to get buried, Don in risk management.
Don, classic Don. Man, you can't trust that guy.
Oh, I was actually speaking of Dawn. DAWN.
Oh, yeah.
She
can't trust her either.
No. All of those, like the 5K range, I think Dart is the easiest click. Like I started building a lineup this morning and just going, okay, what would I do? What feels, as I'm going through the app. 5.7. He's the QB3, like I mentioned, since he became the starter. That just feels very, very safe, which is wild to say that a rookie quarterback on a team that basically has lost all their biggest offensive weapons feels really safe every week.
That is kind of crazy to say. I mean, and he's, like you said, he's not thrown to superstars. Like, he's kind of elevating his teammates along the way, which is pretty impressive. So I think Jackson Dart's here to stay from like an NFL standpoint. Like, I think they legit found their starter. I mean, dude, just slide. Like, please slide. He's playing like a madman out there, which for fantasy, like, we want you to pick up those extra yards, but dude, you got to protect yourself.
Yeah. But it's fun. It's fun, and we like it.
We love it.
He's going to be a good tag. Really, there's a couple different options at quarterback this week. At running back, CMC is on the slate. I have to mention him. He's 9K. I think the matchup against the Rams will lower his roster percentage. Where last week, we looked at CMC and said, oh, we'll pay the price, 8.8. He's going to get clicked a ton. I think he was played by 2/3 of people in cash lineups. I don't think that's the case this week.
Yeah, probably not based off the on paper difficult matchup. But I mean, if that is the case in tournaments, and the ceiling he has,
yes.
I think he led the Niners in receiving last week too. So just an absurd role. So yeah, if he's not going to be played, as the chalky guy in tournaments or in cash games, then yeah, certainly in tournaments, that's a fun pivot.
I do really like Devon Achane at 7.4. I get that the Dolphins are 9.5-point underdogs, but his role, like, he might be, other than CMC, the safest weekly floor of any running back in football. Like, even we saw JT last week where it was just like, okay, you get 40 yards on the ground, not much receiving work, you don't get in the end zone. Achane just feels safe every single week.
I mean, you can pretty much bookmark 6 targets every single week for Achane, so full PPR, like you said, the floor is just so safe.
Yeah, behind CMC, he has the most weighted opportunities per game on this slate, so he's going to grade out really well at 7.4 this week. But I think where a lot of people are going to go is Rico Dowdle at 6.3 because he's just been a monster when they've given him opportunity and said, like, hey, when we give you 20 touches, you're going to score 30 fantasy points. That's pretty wild outcome. The Panthers, we didn't talk about that game. They are against the Saints this week, and he's 6.3.
I love that play from Rico where he scored and then does the 2 pumps. It's so funny. And when he got called for the flag, did you see him like turn around to the refs and he holds up a 2, like he's telling him like, it wasn't 3 pumps, it was only 2 pumps. Therefore, I should not get a flag. Oh man, they asked Canales about it after the game, and he had kind of like a funny answer that was like, yeah, I'll have to ask, ask him about that, and he's like, I'm not worried about it, kind of thing. Whereas like some hard-nosed old school coaches would be like, yeah, we can't be doing that. Like I feel like they found something in Rico where he kind of like is the identity of the team. So hopefully, hopefully he's in the end zone. Hopefully he's not doing the 2 or 3 pumps again, because I think Canales might get upset at that point if it's back-to-back weeks. But man, Rico, what a story. This guy came out of nowhere, right? He was just like farting around on the Cowboys practice squad for like 5 years before doing anything, and now he's crushing. Dude,
my dynasty squad has been there for the whole ride. The whole ride. Never left. Never doubted, especially I totally was like, I don't have any running backs this year. Leads the entire slate in yards after contact per attempt at over 3 yards, which is just insane stuff. Hopefully he gets the opportunity. It also is I know this, we talk a lot about team building. Paying older running backs after their 4th year. I mean, I guess they gave Chuba the extension during year 4, but like the Ramondre Stevensons, Chuba Hubbard, I don't understand building your team that way.
Yeah, I don't either. And like to Chuba's credit, like he was very good last year, so he probably deserved something, but it's tough when you just sign Rico for pennies and he's clearly playing at a higher level than him. So yeah, it's weird, man. NFL teams continue to do it.
Yeah. Chuba has one of the lowest forced missed tackle rates of any running back in football. So it's just interesting when you see them side by side. So Rico's going to be a play. I think Kyle Monangai, depending on the status of DeAndre Swift, is going to be once again front and center. He's 5.6, so he's a little bit more expensive than last week. Same thing with Travion Henderson. If he's the guy, he's at 5.6. But Monangai saw 30 touches, which is just wild stuff. We haven't seen that from a 7th round rookie running back since 1989. So it's been a long time.
Wowza. How'd you pull that stat?
I looked up my birth year and said, hey, how often have I seen... His name was Johnny Johnson.
Of course. Everybody knows Johnny.
Yeah. The guy before that, Marion Butts. There you go.
Great names. We're still waiting on Ramondre Stevenson news, but again, you can go right back to Travion Henderson. On both sides, he's $5,600 on DK, but an even better price tag, $5,900 on FanDuel.
If we get these 5K running backs, and let's say you are able to spend down at quarterback, I think it affords the opportunity to get 1, maybe 2 stud wide receivers on this slate. So JSN is 8.6, and all of his receiving metrics are completely off the charts. I also like Justin Jefferson at 7.9. I wrote him up this past week in tournament takes as like nobody's playing him. He got the early touchdown, and then it was still like, man, I feel like there's more on the table. But JSN probably is the easiest click. Amon-Ra at 8.4, also very, very much in play. Those are the studs earlier in the week.
Yeah, we didn't even mention Puka, but it's just the injury Puka's dealing with. We're not sure on, but one of the 2 studs at the top makes a lot of sense. Amon-Ra should be able to do whatever they want against this Commanders defense. And then I want to highlight, we talked Jameson Williams on this show last week. I just said, hey, caught my eye. He's 4,800. We finally saw him get back in the end zone, had a nice game. Didn't even move his price. He's still 4,900. So if you want to take a shot again this week, I don't mind that.
There's a lot of wide receivers in the 6K range that are going to show up, like Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. We got to wait on his status. But they're in game environments that the total's under 40. So I'm worried, like Nico Collins, all of these guys are going to project really, really well because their price is cheap, and yet the game environment isn't great. So you kind of have to go back and forth and figure out how you want to do that. Rome Odunze is now down to 6K. He's setting up very well as a good tournament play this week because the vibes are not great over the last month.
He had fewer receiving yards than Caleb Williams this week, and also Treylon Burks, who's on the Washington Commanders, in case you weren't aware.
Dude, he had as many as you?
And you.
Hey, I didn't get paid like Rome Odunze, but I tried. I did my best.
We have a bit of a narrative going on this week, Kyle. I'm not sure if you never log off, but if you would log on to Twitter, you would have seen, I think it's his dad, quote tweeted somebody that said Rome Odunze should have played elsewhere or something like that. And he put a little like the pin emoji, like a little pin.
Ooh.
Very ominous, very mysterious. But Rome Odunze's father we have a squeaky wheel narrative going because Marv Sr. called out the Cardinals. Then Marv Jr. balls out game after. Maybe Papa Odunze could help Rome here.
Oh, I just found him. James Odunze.
James.
Gosh, this guy is definitely logged on because he is looking at all the stats. I even see him retweeting a Scott Barrett tweet. Gosh, that okay, so it's one thing, please don't ever tag players, okay? Also, it's one thing to bring up like bad statistics. Like let's say today I tweeted out something like Trevor Lawrence has the lowest completion percentage against zone coverage in the NFL. It's a true statement. It's not saying that he will forever be bad. It's just saying this is what he's done so far. If you take it a step further and then say Trevor Lawrence will forever be bad, That's when the people come out of the woodworks, because you're making a very dogmatic statement where the stats don't lie. Here's a stat. That's it. You can interpret it however you want. James Dunze is searching. He is searching the algorithm, and it's basically feeding him right now fantasy stats. So I'm not tweeting anything about Odunze for a long time. I can tell you that.
Oh, my goal this week is to get a retweet or a follow or a quote tweet from James. So you'll see some Odunze stats on the timeline this week.
Okay, so you're telling me that I should find a really fun, obscure one that, like, Rome Odunze has the most receiving yards, on second down when this happens, that kind of thing.
No, it's got to be something that's like he can like prove his point with. Like a stat about not giving him enough like first read targets, or something like that, where it's like the Bears aren't using this guy the right way. Like, what is Caleb Williams doing? What is Ben Johnson doing? And James will say, I agree. So that's my goal this week.
Okay, so maybe like this is a new little moment for me. I realize that sometimes I hate social media, where it's like I could just delete my account. Just delete me. I'm fine with that. And there's other times where I go, I could speak to NFL fathers. I'm here for the families.
This guy has a lot of time on his hands, man. He's researching his son's name every day. But look, Marv Sr. caught out the Cardinals offense, and they were running play action left and right. Cowboys, it was the Cowboys, but had no answer for Marv. So maybe this is a new thing we got to look for in our database here, Kyle.
Did you see the conversation that, who was it? Jacoby Brissett said that the Cardinals coaching staff decided right before the game to get Marv plays right away. It's like, hey, guys.
Not in the week of practice.
Guys, I got this idea. I know we're about to start the game, but what about this Marv guy?
I could see Gannon in like the pre-game like hype thing. They're like, Jonathan, did you see Marv Sr.? He called us out. You know what? 10 targets for Marv. Let's go. We got to shut him up.
They did keep bringing it up on the broadcast. Like, this is the most targets he's ever gotten on a first drive in his career.
And I was sweating it, man, because we're in a chop league with Andy and the guys. He had Marv, I had Bam Knight, and I had a little bit of a lead going into the game. I was just, man, like Marv was going to bury me, but he didn't. And he got chopped.
I felt pretty good. I played Marv in a few showdown lineups. I was looking good for a while, especially after that Dallas touchdown. I was like, sweet, my combination's hitting. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice to see Marv, who's actually 5,300, by the way. He's another Cardinal that kind of got lost in the mix from the Monday night pricing. So Jacoby's cheap. Marv is cheap. We'll also talk about Trey McBride. It's like him and him alone on this slate for the elite tight ends. I did want to mention a couple of cheap wide receivers. Juwan Jennings, our buddy from last year, is 4,600. He was a great play this past week. Plays the Rams. Did you remember that was the game last year that he went off for 3 touchdowns, just went bananas? It was at Los Angeles.
Is this game at Los Angeles?
It is.
I mean, you can just bookmark 35 DK points then.
He's going to project really well. I'm just telling you right now. Wait. Nope, this game's in San Francisco.
Okay, well then you can't play him. Unplayable.
Dang it. The Rams are
I played him in
favored.
cash last week. I think he's finally healthy, like for once this year. So that's good news.
And we know that Ricky Pearsall will never be healthy.
Ugh, dude, that stinks.
Jordan Whittington is 3.2. We got to wait on news about Puka, but he would definitely be someone that's interesting. And then I did the very, very sick thing where I sorted my spreadsheets by targets per dollar. And Betz, you want me to tell you who is number one by far of this entire slate? If you were to look at target share, targets per game, and divide it by salary? Jerry Jeudy.
I was going to say, I see the doc, so brother, look, I'm not happy to admit this, but 2 weeks ago I played Jerry Jeudy. He scored 0 points. He had so many targets. Like, I was like, oh, he's like 4,100 on DraftKings. Like, give me 5 or 6 catches. Like, this is probably fine at the salary. I played him in a tournament. He was 2% rostered, and I understand why he was 2% rostered. Because Steve Smith told us about Keon Coleman. He was right.
I want you to guess his yards per route run on the season.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Just for context, people, Over 2 yards per out run is a really good season. Over 3, you're balling. JSN's at 4.46. It's like an all-time season. So 2 is really good. 1.5 is fine.
I would say it's probably around like 1.28.
You should go lower than that.
1.04.
You should go lower than that.
0.96.
0.90.
Oh my gosh, that is so bad.
It's in the
That's impossible.
That's like you should be out of the league. Just to give you context, other players that are around that mark: Xavier Legette, Malik Washington, and that's the lowest on this slate.
Goodness, man.
Anyway,
that
he projects
absurd.
well at his price for $3,900 in a full PPR site, and that's as far as I need to say.
Let's move on. That's too much.
All right, at tight end, Trey McBride is $6K. Everything on this slate, targets per game, target share, receiving yards per game, everything, he's just so far ahead of everyone else. So if you wanted to pay up for Trey McBride this week at $6K, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think the easier click after what we saw this past week is Colston Loveland, who's $4,100.
For sure, especially if Cole Kmet can't clear concussion protocol. But it is worth pointing out, he was actually running more routes before the Kmet concussion anyway than Kmet was. So it seems like kind of the emergence here of Loveland is kind of already happening regardless of Cole Kmet's status. But obviously, if he would be out, then it would even be a bigger boost to Colston Loveland. We also need to monitor Luther Burden, who missed last week's game with a concussion as well.
All right, I got to give you a dirty punt name because that's what I do on this episode every Tuesday. It's Greg Dulcich, who plays for the Dolphins now. He's $2,600, and he ran a route on 47% of Miami's dropbacks on Thursday. If you watch that Thursday night game, you're like, hey, it's Greg D. He's just running around there. So he's a punt play that's more just fun to mention.
Best hair in the league.
Yep, he's still doing his thing. He's a talented dude. Just apparently everybody hates him. At defense, we talked about the game earlier. The Texans are 3.1 and the Jaguars are 2.6. As of right now, I have the Jaguars in my lineup as, they're cheap. I'll figure it out later on in the week. But those are like the two I have circled.
Yeah, I think, and they're both really good at rushing the passer. So, and you've got quarterbacks that have issues under pressure. So yeah, certainly both are awesome. Like most weeks when we kind of think about cash games, it's really just the last piece in your lineup. I think I'd prefer to play Houston if I could. They're at home, but Jacksonville is totally fine.
I want to circle the Vikings as a contrarian cheap play. They're 2,300. They blitz a ton. And Lamar has games over his career where he completely implodes, like 2 to 3 turnovers. So I said I like Lamar earlier. It's just a large field tournament play, but I circled them early in the week. It's like, man, they're cheap. I know that they have the pass rush, or at least the blitz rate that at least changes things early in the week. And then there's a bunch of expensive options. If you wanted to play the Bills or the Seahawks as heavy favorites, 3,600, 3,700, those are the expensive options this week. Betz, any final thoughts before we head out?
I don't think so. We'll be awaiting the final trades that may or may not happen as we get to the deadline. But otherwise, we're on to Thursday Night Football with our Broncos. Bo Nix, what could go wrong? And then we're on to the main slate on Friday, so it should be a great week.
It will be so great. Make sure you check out everything at dfspass.com. And we'll talk to you on Friday. Goodbye.
Have a good week. We'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
Streaming is changing the way we watch live sports. And your internet connection can be the difference between catching the game-winning touchdown as it happens or hearing about it from your neighbor's cheers. That's why Comcast is building the network of the future. Using cutting-edge AI and edge computing technology, we're bringing fans closer to the action in stunning high definition with ultra-low latency. It's not just fast, it's game-changing. Learn more at ComcastCorporation.com/sports.
With Sylvania, seeing better while driving at night starts with you. Because headlight bulbs dim over time and can lose up to 50 feet of visibility before burnout. That's why you shouldn't wait. Upgrade your drive with brighter lights for better visibility on the road ahead. Sylvania's step-by-step installation video guides make it easier than ever to take control of your nighttime clarity, all without a trip to the mechanic. So before a burnout darkens your day, upgrade to Sylvania and see better tonight.